double live box. Alright, welcome to the official Catchup live edition, I'm going to call this. Probably the best way to describe it. Normally it's a Lowland League edition, but we've got it a live edition. I'm joined by Mozza. How you doing, Mozza?
I'm good, mate. How's you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's Sunday and I'm doing something different other than watching shitey football, so pretty happy. Chris, how you doing?
I just realised Mozza's got the catch-up gear on. I'm letting the team down here.
I know.
I've got a chicken dinner on my t-shirt.
I'm a bit wary today because the last time we recorded on a North London derby day at their ground, obviously the Arsenal, Spurs got beat. So if it happens again, we're never recording on a North London derby again.
We'll see what happens. Spurs are playing all right tonight though, so who knows? Hopefully we'll get some results, but. Obviously, this is a different way of doing the official catch-up. Normally do a recording and we put it out for you to listen to on audio, but we thought we'll get our faces on the screen and we'll just chat about what's going on in the world of football and the lower leagues of Scottish football. Just a shout out to our sponsors, the Soccer Shop Direct. Follow them on Twitter at the Soccer Shop D, or check out their website www.thesoccershopdirect.com for your football and teamwear needs. So. Basically, if you want to give us any questions or anything like that for us, drop them in the comments on YouTube. We will put them on the screen and then we'll chat about those amongst what's going on. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening in terms of the lower leagues of Scottish football. I'm sure we'll touch on those. But I guess the first thing is we are all missing football, aren't we, guys?
Massively. Aye. I'm sure we'll get into the ins and outs of why we're not back yet, but Saturdays are a bit crap with it, aren't they? Be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Strollers, they have a habit of posting this game out, but they posted out the game where they beat East Stirlingshire 4-3 at the Falkirk Stadium. I was there actually at that game. I think it was a Friday night, not a Saturday, but you miss games like that certainly, and I miss the fans, to be honest. Even when we've been allowed to go to the football, obviously as sort of media people, but you do miss the banter with the fans as well. You miss the cheers and the banter and the funny things people shouting and whatnot. I'm missing the whole atmosphere, and I'm at this point where I don't even know if it's going to be normal for a while. Even when we get fans back, I don't know if the problem is a lot of people are in new routines now. Even myself, like we mostly talk every day, like either through DM or whatever. But even I'm in a new routine on a Saturday. Probably similar to yourselves, and I think it's hard when football is going to be back with fans, or when we can get back to football, to get back into that routine, that normal routine. And I think football is going to suffer actually for a wee bit, even when we can get back to games.
Yeah, it's one of those where I think for myself, it's that thing that it's the build up to Saturday as well. You've got the whole kind of preparing for your Saturday game, and the three of us have been lucky that we've been able to go to the games, like you said, and. Didn't realise how much that build up to the game is also part of your week and made you busy. Like you do things that was quite enjoyable, and you had maybe post game stuff to do as well, and that kept you active. Whereas once the minute that was taken away, it was like, what do you do? Like, what are you actually doing on a Saturday afternoon? It's like there's nothing, and you're just sitting there.
Nothing good is the answer.
Going out a walk when it's dry, that's probably it. Go in the food shop, you know what I mean? Maybe watching a game on a Saturday afternoon if you've got the means to watch a game on a Saturday afternoon. I've been watching Kilmarnock TV, but I mean, imagine that's a fucking punishment for anyone, let's be honest. So I'm watching Kilmarnock play a Saturday afternoon at the moment. So it's like that, just get me back to the football, because I didn't realise how fortunate we all were being able to go to the games before that was taken away, and I can see why, obviously, it was stopped. I can be okay with the reasoning behind it, but I mean, from a selfish point of view, I'm gutted. Like, and it's very, very boring.
I think we've appreciated it more when it's been away that we were actually able to play initially, because I think we kind of took it a bit for granted that our football's back, we're back to normal, and obviously we're not. But it's a whole routine. It's not, as Chris says, it's not just about actually going to the games, it's the people that are there. Like, I'm really missing seeing all the boys at BSC, like, face-to-face every week, and just getting crap chat, let's be honest. Like, that's kind of half the half the enjoyment of football, just chatting nonsense with your pals. But the sooner it's back, the better. And to be honest, like I know Chris is saying that we might struggle when we're back eventually, but I think it might be a good thing if we play it right, because most people are desperate to get back to football and see it in the flesh, because nothing compares to seeing a proper game in the flesh. And given that the league has been marketing itself as the affordable football league, up till this season, if they hammer that, there's no reason why we can't get bigger crowds in for everyone, because it's a lot cheaper than SPFL football, and there's an opportunity as well as difficulties there, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you look at the bigger leagues, and probably find that a lot of teams that we're involved with are close by to a bigger team, or they have a town where there's a lot of fans, and they go to other games, and maybe the SPFL or in the Premiership, I guess. Certainly from my point of view, Rangers, Celtic, Kilmarnock's quite popular, and who knows if they'll be able to get back to the level of crowds that they had before. I'm not sure that you'll see 60,000 in Ibrox or 60,000 in Parkhead for a while. There might be a few, maybe not even before the end of next season. You'll see a full 60k booming Ibrox that everybody wants to see, let's be honest. But there's a chance there for the guys who are maybe, and girls of course, who are maybe going to these games normally, can't get into them, and decide to come and see your Cullinans, your BSCs, your Spartans instead, because it's a local team, it's something to do. I think that'll be a big point. We've got our first comment. Let's see. Mr. Badur's in the house, and he's saying limitations of big stadiums will push people to smaller teams. I think that's right. I think that's a great point. I think we'll see that at some point, and as you say, if you market in the right way, it'll work out pretty well. I know a lot of clubs will be probably trying to advertise the fact they've got social clubs and all that kind of stuff that can attract fans in to come and get a pint and watch the football and have a pint at the end and up the road for your dinners, that kind of way.
I mean, smaller teams like his Livy might benefit, aye.
That's it.
That's a Livy, Jesus.
That's it. Smaller teams like Livy.
So it took me all 5 minutes to get the fishing rod out. Brilliant.
Good start, man.
Man. Well, I think people have noticed it's probably a wee bit more casual today. We have discussed a few things previously. We've obviously ranted and raved about things, but I don't know. When do you really realistically think we'll have fans back by the summer into the new season?
I think it's one of those. I think at our level, I think we should be able to do it in terms of the numbers. I don't see. I mean, I looked at some of the guidance the other day, and apparently from middle of April you can have 50 in a church. Now, if you can have 50 in a church, you can have 50 folk outside in a football ground. Absolutely no danger of that. I mean, our capacities for grounds in our level are probably 1,000 to 2,000 people probably, and they're probably only getting maybe 50 to maybe 300, 400 people at max. So the grounds will be able to cope with social distancing and all that kind of stuff. So there shouldn't be any reason to stop us having fans in. But the question will be, will the government let us?
Well, we said that previously. We said that it could be manageable, and they never allowed us. We had the protocols in place, and we had protocols in place during the worst of the crisis or whatever, and we're still no fans and no football.
we're not going to need those protocols come August, because more people will have been vaccinated by that point. That's the kind of be all and end all. And the noises they were making before things went Pete Tong with the tier light system was that non-league would be the easiest to get fans back first. So if we're going by that logic, and if that's the way they're still thinking, I don't see any reason why we can't have crowds for the start of next season, even if they're no full crowds. And open air terracing is probably the easiest way to get fans back. Let's be honest, because it's still outdoors, it's easier to distance. It's not like a stand where you need to go past people to get a seat. So I don't see why that couldn't happen. Let's hope by August, they're making noises about 75% of folk being vaccinated by August. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have fans back in a sensible manner. And they did it down south, and it didn't seem to have any major effect on things. Like, so if the evidence is there that it can be done in the right way and done successfully, because the other thing with fans down south at non-league grounds that were going was they were just so happy to be going that they were sticking to the rules rigidly. Nobody was taking the mick. So why not? That would be my argument anyway.
I think we've seen that as well from being at the games with no crowds. That everyone at the clubs is being so strict and following the protocols to the letter, because we know how lucky we are to be playing football in the first place. And that's the fortunate thing that we've had up until obviously January until they stopped it. However, I think it's one of those that I don't see any reason why we can't have fans, and done in the right way. Of course, we don't expect to come back to 300 deep inside a tiny wee shed. You know what I mean? That's not what we're expecting. I mean, the ground should be big enough. I mean, that's the thing, and there should be plenty of space. And some folk might have to get wet in December when it's pissing down with rain and snowing and all that. But who cares? You'd rather do that than no be at the game and watching it on the telly. I mean, the streams and all that are great, and we'll probably come on to that at some point in terms of how well the streams have worked for the leagues. But you'd rather want to be there. Ultimately, as a fan, you want to be there. That's the ultimate thing.
Yeah. In fairness, if SPFL teams are allowed to get fans back, I'd very much expect we'd be allowed fans back as well, if not beforehand. And that's what we need to put pressure on if it's not happening that way.
Comment from Reedy there. I've got to agree. In control of the comments, had to highlight.
Wind up merchant Reedy standard.
Of course, he didn't take him too long. What was that? 10 minutes in or something. He's in the house. Welcome in, Reedy, to the official catch-up.
Not gonna lie, I would have had a neck beard if I didn't have a shave earlier, like as well. So it would have been all three of us.
Chris is hiding his beard underneath that massive hat.
No one. I've said it before. No one's seen my lockdown hair. Like, not a chance.
I haven't. I feel like a bit left out on the hat game. I'll be honest with you.
It's like the evolution of hats in here right now, isn't it?
I know. I feel like I do have one close by to stick on just for the laughs. It's certainly the hat game. But the beard, I mean, I've got to point out to everyone, it's not a lockdown beard. This is a beard that's been going on.
Just his beard.
That's just like probably 5 years or something. I was growing it before I got married, and I always said I'd shave it off before our wedding. And I kind of got to round about the wedding. I was like, "Do you really want to shave this off?" I don't know what I do. And wife wasn't too happy. And she's like, "But I've kept it. I'm sticking with it. I'm committed to it now." So that's the beard chat. If you've got any comments or questions or topics you want us to discuss, just drop a comment on the YouTube, and we'll be sure to discuss them in full. I guess there's loads of topics we can cover. But I guess the one that's probably on everyone's minds at the moment is, will football actually return before the end of the season?
Not for us.
Shaking my head already.
Aye, I think we're finished, because the noises that the SFA have been making is hold off till April, hold off to start of April, wait and see. But we need to be finished our season by before the end of April for playoffs. So it's not happening, I don't think. There is a scenario I could see where they might come back and play the Lowlands League Cup just as a wee cheery bye to the season. But is there any point in doing that when fans can't come along and when it's just going to cost clubs money? I'm not so sure. So I expect with the next SFA update there to be a response for the Lowlands similar to the West that nominates, basically that shuts down the season, but instead of null and void, the Lowlands aim has always been to nominate a champion club for the playoffs.
Yeah. So
I'd expect that. I'm pretty much 100% certain that's going to happen. And it would be Kelty on points per game, if that's the way they go. Also, Kelty missed out last year, so it feels like they deserve the leg up to give them the shot in the playoffs. I know East Kilbride won't agree and other teams won't agree as well, but we're in the situation we're in. And the most important thing for us as a league and non-league as a whole is to keep open that trapdoor to the SPFL, because if there's no playoffs 2 years in the spin, it's going to be a lot easier for them to stop that playoff, I feel like. So forget your reconstruction, any promises. That only happens if it actually happens. So kick that can down the road for a while. We need the playoff to happen regardless of what happens.
Yeah, of course. And you can't, expect teams like the East Juniors to join the East of Scotland, for example, or the West of Scotland teams, or the former West Juniors to join the West of Scotland, and get their club licenses and pay the money to do these improvements, if they're not going to get anything in return. Obviously they'll have the Scottish Cup. They never really had it this year. I know some teams did, but what's the point? If you're a member organisation, you have to be responsible for the members. And at the moment, they're just saying anyone that's below the 42 in the SPFL, they're just stopping it for everyone. Yep. It's well, we actually became members of this league with the promise that we would have a chance to go up, and it's just not happened. And I think we're being a wee bit. I don't know. I still have a feeling that it's not going to happen again this year. I just have a bad feeling about it, and I think we're probably looking at reconstruction. I know you mentioned it there, Mozza, but I actually have a feeling it'll be a reconstruction sort of thing over Kelty or whoever going on. Maybe we'll have League 3 for East Kilbride. I'm not sure yet.
Don't get me started. Please don't get me started.
League 3 was, East Kilbride and Parra have had their faults, but League 3's not a bad idea, Chades. It's not a bad idea.
Don't, Ben.
Oh, God. Ben, I cannot believe you're so fond of this idea. Honest.
I'm going to end up ranting about it, so I might as well get out of the way right now, right? All that is a Daily Record journalist going to East Kilbride's manager who's speaking absolute nonsense. Simple as that, right? So he said, League 3 might work because XYZ. Nobody behind the scenes at the club's proposed it. Nobody in the leagues has proposed it. It's not a thing. But suddenly, because East Kilbride's gaffer says, maybe, aye, that might work. Suddenly it's a story. Nonsense. Absolute rubbish. We know what's on the table. And the Record have just got a cheap story. Simple as that. And it wound me up at the time. And it still winds me up now because folk have started running with it. And it's just utter crap.
To be fair, I don't think a lot of what he said made a lot of sense, and it kind of makes him Stephen Aitken look a wee bit stupid. But in fairness, I think it's just been cut and paste, sort of whatever he said, sort of. So there's that to it as well. You can't really put the full blame on Stephen Aitken. I think it's sort of taken out of context, if you will, in my opinion.
He was a wee bit maybe too trusting, I would say, with opening up. But this has happened to East Kilbride managers in the past with comments that have been taken and ran with. So
let's not start any more beefs.
I'll say no beefs. But yeah, just for the avoidance of doubt, for anyone that's watching, the proposal that is out there right now, and you can probably go and read about it because it has been reported on in the media, is that League 2 would expand to 16 teams. And that would include the Old Firm Colts, 2 Highland and 2 Lowland sides getting added in. And the reason they're willing to look at expanding to the 16 is because the Old Firm would be paying money to each side in League 2. Firstly, guaranteed ticket money for every game they play against the Colts. And secondly, some kind of stipend or whatever it was described as. It's not a bung. It's definitely not a bung. But yeah, that's why they're considering it. And the way it would work would be that the Old Firm Colts couldn't get relegated or promoted, but every other team would play as normal in the 16-team league. And what the Lowland have been pushing for, if this happens, is automatic relegation, because you can't have a 16-team league with no automatic relegation on it. So that's the positive from our point of view if it goes ahead. But it's always a thorny subject when we get to reconstruction, isn't it?
For us, I think, well, I'm not too sure about Ben, but certainly for me and you, Derek, it's more of a means to an end. If we can get automatic relegation from it and get a chance to have even more Lowland League teams get the chance to go up to the SPFL, then it's good. Obviously, we'd rather not have Colts in the league, but even if you're looking at a league with 16 teams, I'll always vote for that over 10 teams in a league. Yeah, it's just the way I am. I think most of the leagues, Championship, League 1, League 2, could probably potentially be 12, 14, 16 teams. It's outrageous that there's still 10 teams in these leagues.
I mean, you guys know this. My mind has kind of been switching on this. That, my mindset used to be just no Colts, full stop. But I'm getting more realistic now, and it's going to happen. The Old Firm are going to find a way to get the Colts into the league system. That's pretty much a given now. So what we need to do is get the best thing in return for that. And automatic relegation, I feel like, is a good price to pay for it, because at least that opens up that trap door, so it's unavoidable. And even if it gets phased in over a couple of years, like has been suggested, so be it, as long as it's guaranteed. And that's what we need to make this pyramid system actually work properly. Well, look at the West now. You've got your Auchinlecks, your Kilwinnans, Darvel spending their money. So you get great teams there coming through. You don't want to get a glass ceiling in the Lowland where you've got, 8 to 10 teams that would just easily do a job at League 2 level and they can't get up. That just doesn't work. At Highland, have still got really good sides. You've got Brora, Fraserburgh that would easily survive, in my opinion, if they got promoted. And there's, let's be honest, a lot of deadwood in League 2 that could probably do with having a refresh, a Berwick/East Stirling style refresh. So aye, it's common sense. But obviously turkeys don't easily vote for Christmas.
Well, that's always been the problem. We've always seen comments in the media from your Albion Rovers, your Brecon sides that are, you can tell that they're trying to protect themselves, and we get it. It's a selfish way to look at it, and I think the thing they'll forget though is that if they do perhaps get relegated at some point via a playoff like they're supposed to be, then that trapdoor becomes more difficult for them to get back into the League Two and etc. So I think they've got to think about that as well. If because I mean, let's be honest, like for Brecon and for Albion Rovers, their time are coming. Like that's no debate about that. We know that these teams are going down in the next probably 2 years, 3 years potentially. If they manage to avoid it this year, I think they probably are going to get away with this kind of reconstruction. Obviously, it's on the table, so I think they'll dodge it this year, but eventually they're going down anyway. So they have to think about their plan to get back up at some point. That's for sure.
Speaking about the media,
a conspiracy theory in, by the way.
What's that?
If Celtic get in the playoffs and beat either Albion Rovers or Brecon, probably Brecon actually, but make it more likely, reconstruction is absolutely guaranteed because it'll save Brecon. If Celtic didn't win said playoff, it might be less likely, I'd argue.
Celtic already beat them earlier in the season, remember? So, as did, I can't remember, was it Highland? No, a Highland team beat another team, I think. I can't remember, but I know Celtic certainly beat Brecon in the Betfred Cup?
Aye.
And speaking of the media thing, I just wish like Albion and Brecon they're often sly, like the managers and whoever are often sly about what they say, kind of. I'd wish they just came out and said it. We just don't care about the Lowland League, and they were proper upfront about it. I'd actually respect them for that, to be honest. But there's too many sort of sly comments and wee digs here, like, oh well, you know, sort of stuff that like just be honest about it. We don't care about the Lowland League. We've no intention of going there, sort of thing. It's like fair enough.
Comment there from the Cam behind the cam. He's saying if the Colts are coming into a pyramid, they can go and start at the bottom, in my opinion. I mean, I think we'd all be for that. And if they weren't to get in via the league reconstruction, I think they would. That'd be the way in eventually. They'd come in probably at tier 7 of the West and be able to get promoted through the West and eventually get there anyway. So I think
there would need to be a rule change for that though, because the Lowland currently doesn't allow cold teams, so they get stuck at tier 6 and can't go further.
To be fair, people are forgetting that Hibs, Berwick, other teams have had cold teams in the league before. They've had in the east of Scotland, so you know it's. I don't know. I guess Hearts, I think, were in the east of Scotland as well. So there's a lot of cold. Just now. Exactly. Stirling Uni, for example, are in the east of Scotland. So I think people are just too hung up on the fact that it's Rangers and Celtic. I think that's just my opinion, but had it been like Aberdeen or Dundee or Hibs or that as well, like would people be that bothered about it? Like, for example, if Aberdeen wanted a Colts team in the Highland League, would people be that bothered about it? I think it's just because it's Rangers and Celtic.
They wouldn't be bothered about that because that's the lowest rung they could enter on their pyramid side. But the issue with Rangers and Celtic is they're trying to jump the queue.
Yeah, well,
I think that's it. I think from being involved in the West, I think that's the thing I look at is the fact that either getting ahead of us, but I mean, like you said, I don't think we can stop it. So it's like just got to kind of accept it and move on, and hopefully, like for West teams, we'll be in the Lowland League in a few years, and we'll be that lower league will change, and then it'll become probably one of the most. The lower league actually becomes one of the most competitive leagues in Scotland once the West teams and some of these other East teams come through. That are there just now. That league's going to be pretty competitive.
If you think back before the West of Scotland was actually a part of the pyramid, where would Celtic and Rangers Colts go to? Would they go to the East of Scotland? Would they go to the South of Scotland? So I don't know. I think they'd still be SPFL League 2, in my opinion, because they wouldn't go to the East of Scotland surely, or the South of Scotland. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not advocating them to be in the league, but I think without the West of Scotland there, then they probably would have been jumping the queue anyway, in my opinion.
Oh, they were always going to try and jump the queue. That's a given. Yeah. And they're using money to do so. So it's going to happen.
It's always been the way, isn't it? I mean, in terms of the Old Firm, they've always had more money than everyone else, and they've been able to do things because of money. We're not shocked about that in that regard. So I think it's one of those. It's coming eventually, so let's just embrace it. And if it means we can get the automatic promotion from the Lowland and Highland, then that's probably as good as anything we can get out of it. I mean, if we could get more than one place, then great. But I think realistically, we're looking at getting at least maybe one from each for the next few years anyway.
I mean, the one issue I've got is that they can't get relegated or promoted, because then it's pointless having them in the league, in my opinion. They're literally just playing friendlies.
Would they win a league title? Say that one of them came first. Would they actually win the title? That's the question. Would they be co-champions even though they're not going up? Like,
they'd be champions of the league too, but they wouldn't be obviously promoted.
But would it stop a team behind them getting automatic promotion if they won the league?
Yeah,
there's a lot to
consider
out.
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with them getting promoted, to be honest. I would be alright with them.
It would make them normal league members if they could get promotion or relegation, so I don't see why
they can go up to the Championship, and then obviously they go to the ceiling. The ceiling becomes you can't get an SPFL the SPL Premiership because Rangers still to get all the in there. But I think that'd be totally fine. I don't see an issue with that. And in terms of the Colt teams, then do we think how capable do you think those teams will be in the League Two? Where do you see them? Do you think they can be champions of a League Two, for example?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I've seen. I think it was only on a friendly, but I remember seeing a Celtic youth team demolish Kelty Hearts. Well, fair enough, they didn't have Nathan Austin in that at the time, but the youth teams are capable. You know, I've seen I think it was Rafe Rovers youth. They beat Kelty Hearts in the Fife Cup as well. So these youth teams are very capable, and I think it depends. If there's a team like Queen's Park, obviously currently, I think they probably would be a match. But for the rest of them, for Cowdenbeath, Brecon, Albion Rovers, all these sort of teams, the Rangers, Celtic, Colts would be more than capable. And funny enough, actually, just saying that, I think Rangers just loaned a couple of guys to Clyde recently, so they're probably at that level already. You know what I mean in terms of first team.
Dapple Maboudie's hit the ground running at Queen in the South as well in the Championship. So if he's able to do it at that level, he'd probably find League Two a scoosh. So they've got the players absolutely to win those leagues.
We've got a question here from someone asking, do you think PSG will buy Messi? In terms of, I mean, this is the official catch-up that covers all leagues of Scottish football, but certainly, do I think PSG will buy Messi? Short answer is no. And we'll move on.
I actually think it's a possibility because not wanting to go too much into Barcelona, but obviously they're a complete state at the moment. Borderline bankrupt. Was it 1 billion debt or something? You know what I mean? So Barcelona, they're too big to fail. Then there's no way that they're going to ever be bankrupt. But yeah, I think Messi is. I think we wanted to leave last summer, so I think he's probably I think he'll probably go more to Argentina. He'll probably go back to Argentina, but it's a possibility.
Man City are desperate for him, aren't they? So we'll see what happens there.
Well, he wants to. I think he wanted Neymar back at Barcelona, and Neymar's still at PSG. Well. So yeah, it's a possibility Messi might go back to PSG. Might go to PSG. Sorry.
Not gonna lie, I never thought I'd speak about Messi in this podcast.
This is just an advance of him taking over Lowland side in his first job, football manager style.
becomes manager of Kelly Hearts or something. Barry Ferguson becomes the next, I don't know, Hearts manager or something. And
Kelly Hearts.
Kelly Hearts. You see what I done there? That wasn't even deliberate, but anyway, let's see what else we've got in the comments. Gary McLaughlin saying, would the Colt teams be getting in the league benefit the national team? You could see the young boys and give it potential for them to make the first team in the national team. Gaz is my producer on that Tuesday night, so shout out to Gaz for dropping in. I think so. Yeah, I think it will benefit them, especially the younger guys that are coming through and giving them a bigger challenge. I think that's the thing you always look at when you see these young lads come through. Can they really do it on a cold Wednesday night in Annan, for example? I don't know. I'm not really sure because you don't really see. And playing at your level, when you're playing the same age group, it's different. It's a completely different ball game.
Yep.
They play against me, so I think so.
The argument's never been if that would be a good thing. I think it's always been accepted. The argument is, why wouldn't they just go out and loan to existing clubs and get the experience? And why does it need to be a Colt side that brings it in? However, there's obviously pros and cons in that side, because the major pro, I think the Rangers and Celtic would argue, is they'd still control everything to do with their training, their match prep, their, well, obviously sports scientists and all that kind of surrounding the setups. So they would see it as better for their long-term development. Whereas, like, clubs that they've been on loan to would say, well, they're getting more of a real experience coming to us.
You know what's funny about... Sorry, mate. You know what's funny about Rangers, actually? I can't remember if it was under 23 or the under 18s, but one of them wasn't a part of a league for ages. And what they were doing is they were playing all the PSGs, the Milans. I mean, surely that would probably be more of a benefit than playing the likes of, no disrespect, but Brecon City or Albion Rovers or something like that. So,
Rangers are still doing that with their academy side, aren't they?
Yeah.
Although obviously it's been kind of hamstrung with the pandemic, but Celtic's academy side is currently on furlough, so less the better. It seemed to be doing great for Rangers youngsters because we're getting results here and there, obviously getting beat here and there, but can he beat playing quality to improve?
Yeah, but I think that goes back to that experience thing. Well, you wonder how the teams will be made up, because obviously a Colt team could be made up of any player. It doesn't have to be an age thing. So they maybe will put in some guys that are a little bit older, let them play with more experienced players. It wouldn't surprise me if they sign some guys that are already playing kind of League One Championship type players to kind of give that experience to the guys, almost like having a coach maybe. And your team, there's a lot of guys there that probably, if you look at the likes of, I don't know, like Partick, have got like Richie Foster, for example, who seems like he's a good coach at the level. For Partick, would he maybe suit him playing for Rangers Colts team? He's probably Rangers daft by the sounds of it, so it probably would suit him to play there and be like a part of that squad and help bring on those younger players, because I think that will be the thing that you'll see, is that it's all well and good playing against another 11, 19-year-olds, for example, but once you can start working with experienced players, I think that's a big plus for anyone developing.
That's part of the chat now. Definitely, there would be a limit, I'm sure, on overage players allowed to play, because you can't have a Fred Morelos coming back for injury playing at Brecon City.
Imagine.
I mean, Shane Duffy might find his level in League Two, but
he got a game. He got a game. I mean, he could be the most expensive player ever to play in League Two. I mean, let's be honest, he's probably.
I haven't said that. I've just thought about it a bit more. Morelos might get sent off and make it a mere free game anyway.
I guess that's the question then. About do we think that they'll be allowed to kind of almost have like a dual contract situation where the players will be able to come through and play if they are coming back from injury, or will it be separate squads? I'm not too sure. I'm okay with the idea of potentially a Morelos or someone dropping down, even for one game. I mean, obviously, if you get the win, I remember, here's a story from years gone by when Kilmarnock reserves were playing. I think it was like in the mid-2000s, and there was these two trialists going to be playing for Kilmarnock reserves, and there ended up being about 3,000 folk at this reserve game because it was so built up. If, for example, you have a Morelos, you get wind that Morelos is playing at Brecon, for example, like we said, you're going to have thousands of folk that are going to go and watch that game because purely because, I heard Morelos is coming back from injury. He's going to play 45 minutes at Brecon, for example. you're going to get loads of folk coming to that game just because of the name. So maybe that'll be a bonus for the league. But I don't know. Then it's become a bit of a shambles when you start to kind of bring in players in and out your squad. And I mean, it's not kind of like the way they do in kind of like NHL. There's no way you're going to have like a up and down situation where you can play 1 week up. But who knows? I think it'll be a interesting situation. But I'm okay with the odd player coming in here and there, but not Morelos.
Did you say 3,000 for Morelos? So what's that, like free for Shane Duffy? And it'll probably just be 3 people there to shout at him, you know. So.
Someone give him a dog's abuse. Maybe people won't even pay. They'll just go over come the other side of the walls and just shout over abuse. Like see that the Queen of the South the other week or something. There was folk giving it was Air, wasn't it? Was it Air? There was folk just like hanging over the wall, just giving abuse to Stephen Dolby or something.
Yeah.
Aye, shouting about his dog.
That's it.
That was a few months ago.
He was loving that as well, giving them that back. But I think they need to do it the way they do it in Spain. Seems to work. That if a guy's registered for the Colts team, he can only play 2 or 3 games for the seniors until the transfer window. So it's almost like being on loan to the Colts team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think would be fair enough because it would stop that kind of dual contract issue. Any senior team guy could easily drop down, especially if the Colts were struggling for a couple of weeks and just scoosh the league. You don't want that. So you'd need to, like, put it this way, you need to find a way that likes Nathan Patterson is a young kid coming through. I'm just trying to think of somebody on Celtic's side that's in that position. They don't really have a young kid. Okaflex, I guess, maybe Ralston. But you need to find a way to balance it. That those guys are probably too good for League Two, but at the same time they're not quite ready for the senior squad. So where are they going to find their place? Are they just going to go into that Colts team and is that really going to be beneficial to them? You know, are they going to get loaned out? So
you don't want a situation.
You need to find a balance.
You don't want a situation where in the first team 1 week, then to League Two the next, first team then, you know what I mean? You don't want any of that. That would be a wee bit wrong. The only thing I could think is maybe bring on some sort of squad registration for the Colts teams. Like they would have to register who they want to play and all this sort of stuff like that. There is sort of certain registration rules, but I don't think it's like strict like England or anything like that in Scotland. But yeah, I think they need to. That's definitely one thing they need to look at in terms of their Colts, because we kind of, as you mentioned, obviously Morelos playing against Brecon City would be a wee bit surreal if anything else.
Love to see it. I would do. I'd watch that, to be fair.
Wonder what he'd make of the hedge.
Exactly.
He'd be in for Pellers if he didn't have a good game, or got sent off. Imagine the Pellers.
I mean, let's face it. If he was to play, the back four is just going to wind him up all game until he eventually snaps. And
I kind of want to see it now. I'm not going to lie. Now we've talked about it.
Yeah, I'm actually for it. I mean, that'll be pure entertainment if anything else. But it'll be interesting to see how it develops over the course of the next kind of few weeks. And I think as we head into that date of kind of around about the April time, where we're not sure whether we're still kind of in that limbo just now. Of will football happen? Will it not? I think we all have our feelings that it won't happen. I think we're absolutely sure that it won't come back in any sort of form this season. But once we know that, I think that will then pave the way for the actual discussions to properly take hold and get to a lot of voting point of view.
Should we move on to the handling of this situation then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fun. Yeah, well, I said my point the other day, but an absolute disgrace, really. You know, it's been a wait and see for 2 months, and then even before that. I mean, imagine being a coach trying to motivate your team, and the players are asking you, "Oh, are we coming back? Oh, I don't know. We can't train. Go and do a 5K." I mean, how are you meant to motivate your players and even yourself? How are you meant to stay motivated? Oh, we might be back. We might not. It's like even myself. I'm thinking, I need to. If we're back, I need to do this. I need to do that. You know yourself, guys. If you do media, right? I need to keep myself clear for that day because we might be back, and it's just like you can't wait this amount of time without feeling a wee bit pissed off. And I know what's going to happen. We'll get to the next SFA guidance thing, and it'll be like, "Oh, we're still not back," and it's like, "Well, we're not coming back, so we wasted all that time." I wish actually they just put a plan and said, if they put a plan and said, right, we've spoke to the government. I know how hard it is actually. Well, I don't know how hard it is, but obviously it's going to be difficult because they don't know themselves. But even if they said, right, our plan is to get League One and League Two back by this date. This is for the Lowland League. And if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? No one's going to be angry because at least it appeared like they've tried. But to me, it's like they've not even tried with anything. You know what I mean? They've not actually. It's just been like, oh, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. And the fact that we got stopped, whatever feelings on that, if it was due to Celtic and Dubai and all this sort of stuff, or whatever your belief on that is, the fact that we were actually playing during the worst of this sort of pandemic and now we're not is devoid of logic, in my opinion. Yeah. You know what I mean? Regardless how you feel about the protocols and if they were getting adhered to and all this sort of stuff. I don't know. What are your guys' feeling?
I think when we shut down the whole thing about this new variant that was coming back in January was the concern. It was more transferable. It was more likely to catch people, more likely to catch it and cause them more harm and all that. And I think, as I say, we probably accepted that. Now we're 2 months down the line from that point, and we're now looking at it. And the cases are probably, I think, roughly similar to like where they were at in like September, October time, when as you say, when we started our season, clubs have all the protocols in place from before, so there's no real reason why we can't play at this point. But there seems to be this thing that they keep talking about is the balances. So they're trying to get the schools back to normality. So they're trying to say, well, one of the things you can't do is play football. So that's the way they're pitching it to people at the moment. And I can see. I mean, I'm a fair person. I can accept that schools and things like that are more important than football, because ultimately going to football is a luxury, but this is a problem with society at the moment. People are getting angry because they can't do luxury things. I think that's the thing you see a lot of time is things like going to the pub or going for your haircut or having a meal. It's all extra stuff that you don't actually need to survive and live. And football's just is another part of that. So I think that's the thing. Was football quite lucky, the fact that we got kind of the professional status tag before? I think we probably were, in hindsight. We were all delighted when they said professional football, and that is tier 5, tier 6, etc. is included in that professional kind of banner. But I think looking at what's been said recently, I don't think we have that professional tag anymore, and we're kind of lumped in with the kind of grassroots, amateur type levels where we're not playing, and I think that's where we're going to have to be now for the next.
Well, not even that, because grass roots and amateurs can now train, whereas we can't now. So,
we can train, but we have to be non-contact, and it can only be players in the area, isn't it? It's in the locality, so you can still train, but that's not going to be a training session.
But for most Lowland League teams, for example, I don't know, I think Berwick train in Edinburgh, so maybe not a bad example, but they're not going to have their full squad of guys that live in the same area, so they might as well. I mean, how many guys are they going to get? And at BSC, for example, like there's guys all over the country. So what's the point?
Glasgow, so
exactly.
Like, there's the issue I have with the whole kind of professional status or so-called elite status is that it was given to us by the SFA, and it was quite heavily said, look, this is part of licensing and part of being in the pyramid. We're all going to be treated the same for this. And I don't feel like anyone's challenging the SFA that they're suddenly beginning to forget about us. Like, at least that's what it feels like. Because we're still technically in the exact same status as we were before, but I feel like the SFA is too scared to challenge the government too heavily because they're scared that the government will just shut it down. And especially with events like Celtic going to Dubai was a big one. George Square, with the Rangers fans, was a big one recently. When these things happen and the media's turned against football, basically vilifying football and football fans, and it's not a good look, let's be honest. At that point, the SFA is kind of offering up concessions, I feel like, just to keep things running. And we're easy collateral, aren't we? Like,
I see it different, Mozza. I see it like none of them want to say they have the authority, because really, who has the authority? No one actually. Has it ever been answered? The government or the SFA? To me, it's not been. But none of them want to take the authority because when things like that happen, then that means they'll get the blame, and none of them want the blame. Do you know what I mean?
It's got to fall on the government shoulders, doesn't it? Like in terms of setting the rules for sports and so on. The question is how the SFA interpret that. And you'd like to think they're having regular chats. I'm sure they are having regular chats with the government and Jason Leach and so on. But I do feel like they're being as careful as possible with the way they're rolling things out. You saw with League One and League Two, they've got testing that's required now. And even then, it took ages to get that on board. But things right now are better when you look at the numbers and look at the stats and so on than they were previously when there was no testing and there was just protocols. And it's been proven through those protocols that they worked because we didn't have any major outbreaks. There was one or two scattered here and there, but they were handled the right way. So the question is, like, testing now seems to be the accepted way of doing this, right? Which means that we're finished because unless it's lateral flow testing, our clubs can't do it. So that's the big change, the big shift that happened. But my question that I'd love to ask somebody like Jason Leach or somebody in the SFA side of things is, given that our protocols, say for the Lowland League, were brilliantly successful because not one major outbreak happened, no games were called off because of COVID, why did that change when things improved again? Why are you not giving us the responsibility again to run things exactly as before when it was proven to work?
So the communication thing,
I've got.
They've not been transparent anyway, because how can you go away from if they're, you just mentioned that they're obviously in conversation, but how can you go away from every conversation and say, oh, we're still seeking clarity? Like, that's like me asking you something and you say it, and then I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to speak to you again because we're still seeking clarity. It's like, well, obviously one of them doesn't know, either the SFA or the government. So
in that
where's
way,
the
I kind of do
transparency?
feel for the SFA a wee bit as well, because they've had to cancel update meetings because they've not heard back from the government, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they're not going to be priority one, but you'd like to think that they'd at least get listened to and answered back within a few days.
To be fair, they might have shot themselves in the foot with the relationship as well that they've developed.
The whole thing's just no great, is it? Let's be honest.
Nah.
I get the reason for keeping some things back and not having full transparency because you don't want to throw somebody under the bus for making a decision. But there comes a point. Like, there comes a point where you've just got to stop giving false hope and say, look, the chances are at your level, you're not getting back.
Yeah, so exactly.
Plan ahead. And I think the West of Scotland approach was fantastic with the statement they put out. Let's just not talk about Twitter the other day. But
God.
No comment. The statement they put was brilliant because it set it out in stone. This is what we're doing. This is what we're about. George can't really do that with the Lowland, and he explained that in his interview that he did. But I would like to have some kind of reassurance that, look, if things don't go back, we are nominating, say, Kelty as a champion team. They are going to go ahead, nominated for the playoffs. We'll see what the Highland Day, and we'll go for there. But it would be nice if the SPFL said, look, the playoffs are still happening. That's all I'd need here.
With the Highland... Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's all we want to see is continue that promotion relegation, because I think last year we all seen what happened in terms of, we all expected a playoff to still happen at some point between Brora and Kelty, and the bottom team got Club 42, I guess is what we'll probably call them, and it never happened, and it was all that kind of self-preservation and kind of skullduggery to try and get them safe, which is fine, but this year we want to see it happen. Whether that's, well, I guess the thing we want to see is we want to see a Lowland League team and a Highland League team in League 2 at some point. So whether that's reconstruction or that's like a playoff, it's got to be one way or the other. There's no way we can sit and have another season of no one getting promoted. That just is no use to no one. So I think we have to see that happen in one way or another. And I think, as you said, Mozza, the idea of nominating Kelty is a good idea. They pretty much won the season last year, and they've pretty much won this way if you go down the points per game route again. So over the course of 2 years, they're still the best team in the Lowland League. They deserve a shot at getting up, like they should have had last year. So why not? Let's get them up and take on a Brecon and an Albion Rovers.
as I said earlier, it's no ideal because I even fancied our chances of challenging. With the fixture list we had left, we had to play all the big boys in a row. And if we'd gone on a run, then we had every chance of winning the league as well. But,
Nominate BSC to go up.
I mean, I did suggest to George that we could do it for the banter just to see what the media reaction would be.
Know what to do, right? Know what to do. Here's one for you, Mozza, for your mates at BSC. See on April Fool's Day. Stick that out on April Fool's Day and just see what happens, man.
But the Lone League have nominated BSC Glasgow.
If Michael's watching, there's your April Fool's plan right set up right there.
I love that. That would just go Pete Tong, wouldn't it?
So what about the Highland League then? I take it, I'm assuming they would probably have to nominate Brora because, I mean, at the moment, some teams have only played like 1 or 2 games in that league.
Some have played none, so.
Exactly, so I guess
they would be more likely to go null and void, but if they were nominating, they would need to do Brora because they were the ones last year. It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Chris has a fan in the house. Thanks, I guess.
At least we now know Chris's burner on YouTube.
That's it. Clocked you, mate. I think we had a comment about the testing and whether or not it could work. You touched on it briefly there about how whether or not it would happen. We also said it wouldn't happen. Now, League 1 and League 2 are going to go into testing mode for the return. I personally think that will become an absolute minefield in League 1 and League 2. When you've got guys who are working a day job as well as playing football, if they have a positive test, say they've been at training on Tuesday, they'd have a test before a match on the Saturday. If they've been at the training and they've tested positive, that game's getting shut down because that squad will probably be in contact with the player who tests positive. I'll tell you now, you'll see games cancelled a lot more because we're testing than you did before. I guarantee it.
But to be fair, I think there was an article recently. I don't know how reliable it was, but I don't think there's any proof, certainly from what I've seen anyway, that football has actually spread. I know what you're saying about people obviously out with jobs and whatnot, but as far as I'm concerned, and from what Jason Leach has said previously, I mean, the chances of getting transmission from outdoor, I guess, is like next to none. So I'm not 100% sure if that will happen, though. I mean, they had that one instance where obviously East Stirlingshire, who weren't testing, one player had COVID and they had to shut down, but that was pretty much the wrong advice from, can't remember what they're called now. So I don't know if that will happen, Ben, in my opinion. If it's going to be similar in terms of rules, in terms of I can't remember what they're called now. The track and trace. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I don't know if they'll shut like whole teams down, even if there is a positive test. Because we've had positive tests previously, and not everyone's been shut down in terms of the whole squad, even in the Premiership as well. So I don't know if that will happen.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on obviously how the contact has worked, but I mean, there's a solid chance that you'll see games being postponed because of positive tests, and which obviously if you weren't testing before you wouldn't really know, which I understand why we're testing, and that's cool. But I think as the way the leagues work in terms of part-time players having jobs and things like that, I think it could become a bit of a minefield and cause problems.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think
especially false positives as well, because you get quite a few false positive tests that fly about.
I think I've clocked who you're a super fan is, Chris.
Who's it?
I'll put this post up and see if that helps. Mozza. Understand. Shout out to Kegman, please. I think he's in the chat. We now know Keg's burner account on YouTube.
I said it the other day in private, but the only person that I would consider a threat in your FM Cup or whatever is Keg. I'd love to play Keg and beat you in the FM. Undefeated competitively in the FM Premier League so far this season with Wolves. Me and you, Keg, tournament.
If anyone's wondering, that's exactly what Chris has done with his time away from football. He's just grinding the FM and beating everyone. So
scalping people right, left and centre with Wolves of all teams.
I know, not even. I don't know. I've got Ginger, I think, coming up soon as well. He's Liverpool at the moment, but he did get beat by... Who did he get beat by? Who was it? Blackburn? No, it wasn't Blackburn. He got beat by a championship team in the cup the other day, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to beat Ginge when I play him.
That's it. Chris throwing shade already ahead of his next match. Love it. But let's see, there was another comment around about the East and West leagues. We'll get up on the screen. I think just to put a bit of context around that, there's been an announcement recently that the East and West boundaries have been set. Finally, we've got some sort of agreement there, which is just great. We've been waiting to see that happen for a while. But so Shopburn's asking, anyone know any applicants for the East and West other than the ones that have been announced? I haven't certainly heard of anyone as yet in the West coming through that'll be applying. But I don't know the East. I think there's been a few teams announced, but I don't know what any other kind of rumours or anything like that. Have you guys?
The word is in the East that basically all these juniors, with the exception of Tayside, are coming over. And they're basically all coming over as one. There's rumours flying around that there's been some agreement on Tayside, though, potentially becoming Lowland, at least to get it into the East of Scotland, but we're waiting on clarification there. I think most likely course of action is there's going to be a Tayside league, be it junior or be it senior. But yeah, there's a thread on Pine Bovril that there's all sorts of confirmed rumours and speculation on that I've been paying close attention to, because there's a few other teams coming in the East, like Sygentas announced that they're applying. I noticed there was an Army team last night. I saw their statement on Facebook that they've applied. So it's really exciting for the East, because there's always been more teams in the West. I feel like the East, if the way they're going, they could be almost as big, and that can only be a good thing.
It's I think it's 10 to 15 teams in the East of Scotland, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know them all, but there was someone said something about a Fife team. I don't actually know who it is, but someone said, someone made a comment on Twitter. I noticed, I never looked further into it, but a Fife team that's had a fall-in but never like a senior team, so I don't know who they're
There's word about a Perth team as well, wasn't there? Because I saw somebody saying there'll be 3 teams supported in Perth, so...
A bit harsh, because I think there is already 3, so they're not like Canoe,
I think so.
Greenfield and Luncarty kind of Perthshire, so should be, we'll call it 4 then, just to be fair. But Tayside would be massive for the East of Scotland if they could get the Tayside teams. Like, I don't know if Lockheed's in there, for example, but likes of Lockheed, big ex-junior club, well, junior clubs at the moment, but if they were to go to the East of Scotland, I think that would be massive for the league, I think.
Yeah, I think you go back to the West. The only team I actually have having a bit of chat about is an amateur team called Kilbride Thistle. They're from West Kilbride, which is down the coast towards Largs, and however they're going to play in Saltcoats, which I think is a bit random. They're obviously getting access to a ground.
Oh, he's away.
He's been shut down. Kilbride Thistle didn't want to use getting it.
Hopefully, I think it's still running. Oh, there he comes. He's
back again.
I pressed that stupid button on my mouse by accident. Anyway, yeah, so they'll come straight back to the point of Kilbride Thistle. They're going to be playing, as they say, in Saltcoats at Jacks Road, which is a kind of big playing sports facility in Saltcoats. And I mean, they're a good amateur side. I mean, you find boys who play kind of junior football in kind of north there, so they want to go and play for Kilbride Thistle rather than playing junior at some points, because they want to play their mates. They've got a good squad, they're capable and all that kind of stuff. I guess you've got to look at maybe teams like Harmony Row and Coval Park. Maybe they're really strong amateur sides. I mean, Coval Park, let's face it, Coval Park are probably now Darvel, let's be honest, in terms of what happened there. I mean, Mettican took a few of the good players through from Coval Park. I don't know what their situation is now, but there's definitely good amateur teams that are going to be capable. So, but in terms of any other teams, there's not been much in the West, but it can only be good for the league. More teams are better, in my opinion, and that will be important. I wonder how low it'll work as a structure point of view. Do they come in at a kind of level below the current setup, or do they?
It's difficult with East of Scotland. It's difficult at the moment because they were planning on doing like a first division, second division, but that's probably out the window now because of obviously not finished the season and stuff. So I'm assuming it'll just be conferences again. But I've still got a big issue. I mean, I like the idea of obviously more teams. It's great to have more teams involved in that. But as long as we don't get to like 7th, 8th, 9th tiers, or we're already at 7 to be fair, but like 8, 9, 10 tiers down, it's just, for me, I think you need a bigger league. Like 16 to 18 teams would be perfect. But when you're getting into these like the 9th and 10th tiers, I think that's way too much. Like, I don't want it to be like England, unless it goes regional, obviously. Unless it goes regional, then it could work. But for me, I don't think you want to have like a million tiers for a pyramid. You want to have at least like maybe 8, 9, 10, nothing more than that, basically.
Depends how it's run, as you say. If it's regional or so on, it would make sense. I mean, I've just pulled up the list for the East of Scotland thread on Playing Bovril that so it's not just the ex-junior teams. I've got Cooper Hearts, apparently.
That may have been the five team.
Letham's the army team that I saw the confirmation from. And yeah, it's basically suspected that all these juniors, with the exception of Tayside, are on board. And then, interestingly, that includes Armadale, who have had some interesting thoughts on the pyramid in the past. So
best said about the sort of West Lothian teams, the better, I guess.
Yeah.
They wanted to. If no one doesn't know this, they obviously wanted to join the West of Scotland rather than the East, but they were, I guess, told no, and now they're joining the East of Scotland.
There's at least one of them that are still going to try and get in the West, though, because I think they're registered in the West boundaries, but their ground's in the East boundaries. Okay. So there might be a bit of kind of hangover there. We'll see.
Is that Fault House?
Fault House.
It's not Fault House.
No?
I can't mind what it is, though. Or maybe it is. I just remember reading, but I can't mind which one it was. I know Blackburn will be delighted to welcome some fellow West Lothianers to these. So.
Get some derbies and they go. That'll be the. Trying to think if there's that comment there, but I've totally mind went blank. Anyway, let's see what else we've got in the comments. Mr. Gretna 2008 is in the house. Saying, hey guys, good to see you. What would happen with relegation if the season is done same as last season?
I think so. You can't really get as much as we want to promote teams and everything like that. Again, I think maybe I'm a wee bit being a bit hypocritical here, but I still feel it's wrong to relegate teams. Not playing a full season, like for the SPFL last season. In some respects, I felt, for example, when Raith Rovers that went up to the Championship, when they were like a point ahead of Falkirk, I think. I thought it was totally ridiculous that they had went up like that. And then similar, I thought it was wrong that Hearts got relegated and Partick. But then again, I suppose I am being hypocritical, wanting to obviously get Kelty up, but I don't think you can. It's difficult. I think the fact that Brecon, for example, I think this is where the difference comes in for me. The fact that Brecon were last season and were saved, I think that's why I'm kind of more pushing for Kelty to get promoted this season, I guess. Or at least someone to get the chance to go up.
I mean, the decision might be taken out of the Lowland League's hands, because if the West, East and the South don't nominate a champion, then there's no promotion or relegation. The Lowland wants to get back into 16 teams. That's a given. But they're not going to relegate. Right now, it'd be Vale Leithen. They're not going to relegate them if the season isn't completed. I can't see it.
I can see the point, though. I can see people in the East of Scotland and the West of Scotland, mainly the East of Scotland, obviously, because it's been there longer, about Vale leaving, because they have been bottom the last 2 seasons. So I can see that it's a similar point to Brecon or the points we make about Albion Rovers or whatever. So I can see that point too, but I don't know. I think it's more difficult this season because we've played less games. It was easier last season, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
I suspect what they might do is, assuming we're getting a normal season next season, they might just come out and say, look, we are going down to 16 teams the season after. So if that means 2 or 3 getting relegated, that's what's happening. And just set that stall out for the start, because that's what the Lowland want. The aim is to always be a 16-team league. So if they set that out at the start, then at least that gives teams a heads up.
It could have been, if we played the full season, it could have been technically 3 teams to get relegated.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
I say Kelty went up, Albion Rovers came down, Vale Leithen were bottom, so that would be them in the second team, and I think the third one would be if there was a champion from East of Scotland or West of Scotland. So
Yeah, so if a Highland team goes up, Lowland team gets relegated.
yeah,
So that's one extra place, and as you say, the other ways it can work out could easily be 3 teams.
yeah.
It's flexible. That's the thing.
In terms of the licensing, how are East of Scotland fixed in terms of clubs who've got licenses? I know in the West we're quite thin on the ground at the moment. A lot of teams are kind of trying to push for the February deadline, but I don't know that anyone actually has managed to get the ground in a state to get the license to where they can go up this year. So there won't be a champion, for example, in the West. But what's the East of Scotland like?
The whole
Most
East
league? Premier teams, yeah.
Is it the whole league now?
I think there's only one that isn't.
I can't remember. I'm sure it's pretty much the whole league anyway in the Premiership, because who was it that got renewed recently? Was it Dunbar or Haddington? I can't remember. Someone announced that they got renewed anyway. So, but yeah, pretty much the whole of the Premiership's licensed in East of Scotland.
So I think that'd be quite right then if the East want to nominate a champion, if they've got somebody there that would make sense. Because I think the West, the only team that potentially could do it is Clydebank. I don't even think Darvel maybe are possibilities, but obviously they're not close enough in the league yet to be able to do that. And we're not going to play any more games. So Clydebank are probably sitting top. I mean, Troon, we always talk about Troon in this podcast. We're sitting second. We're sitting second in the league, man. I don't know how that happened. That's got to be some story for the season.
Did you know Albion Rovers' latest loan signings, by the way?
He didn't.
No, I've not seen them.
Ben's pal Stevenson's joined him.
Oh, has he? Brilliant. Brilliant.
Can't he write that stuff, eh?
Right. Did you see his bloody quote on BBC
He's
Scotland the other
17,
week?
Eat your heart out, by the way.
Belt it, Ryan.
Stay another day.
That
Glorious.
jacket, we've seen it. Shocking. Absolutely.
I bet it was warm though. I bet it was warm.
I mean, it probably was, no doubt. But did he borrow it from his wife? That'd be possible.
That's the question.
It's possible, but I think anyone else get any comments? Drop your comments in the chat. We'll probably round up pretty soon. But
yeah,
in terms of if you've got anything else to talk about, what else has been happening? Greenock Morton have been playing friendlies. That's been
grass Mozza.
Grass Mozza.
What was it? Was it a wee slicky grass or something? Snivelling, that was it.
Snivelling wee grass.
Imagine being a snivelling grass when they're showing the bloody game on YouTube for anyone to watch. Like, I was nonsense, by the way, but standard football Twitter, innit?
That seemed farcical that game was on. But allegedly, I'm going to use that word in quotes, that the game was approved by SFA. Now, I mean, SFA can't make a decision. How did they decide that game could be approved in the first place? Who's doing that? Do you know what I mean? That.
But the other thing is, the subs weren't wearing masks or that, so they weren't even adhering to protocols.
There's about 20 folk in the car park watching the game as well.
The thing is, it was, to be fair, it was pretty much with the age of the guys. I think two youth teams basically, and they're saying that youth teams can't even play each other this whole season, and they suspect they're friendly.
I suspect that Morton would not have been happy to see that it was getting broadcast and might have tried to get it shut down.
I watched the full game pretty much, so it was a good watch. I mean, don't get me wrong, got to see some players play that. Mozza is going to be that's him to help to get off.
What time is it?
It's 22. We'll probably just wrap up there, to be honest. And
my nephew's saying hello.
Right. I thought you were getting into trouble.
Does he call you Derek?
Aye.
Is it not called Uncle or that? No, that's just.
Well, it depends what his mood is. Given day.
All right.
That was your missus getting in trouble there. Fair dues.
I mean, I'll get in trouble afterwards. It's all good, but.
So pretty much comment there from Reedy. We'll just chuck that in for the last laugh. I'm sure he was delighted. I seen him in George Square.
That's a very, very weak fishing attempt, that for Reedy.
I seen the pictures. He was at George Square with fireworks and a Union Jack suit and everything. I seen him.
A Union Jack suit.
full thing, hat on and everything.
I tell you what, my dad was delighted the amount of bloody Rangers Datex I got off from that day. Like, just videos of nonsense.
It was the guys at 2 o'clock in the afternoon putting fireworks off, because that's what I was having.
He was still messaging me at 2 a.m. with bloody videos of like Fredo Morelos loving stuff. Like,
All I'll say, lads, is it's been 10 years. You know what I mean? 10 years waiting on that. So
10 years to win your first title. Got to applaud it.
Salt, throwing salt, mate.
Would you expect anything less, Michael Marnock fan? Come on, let's be honest. But I think we'll probably wrap.
Loyal.
But don't get me started on him. We've had the chat. Kyle laugh at him, man. I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place if that guy saves our season. Me and Kyle had a few run-ins, shall we say, previously, and outside of football, and I find it difficult at the moment to cheer him on. Put it that way. But I think we'll probably just wrap it up there. Just another shout out to our sponsors, the Soccer Shop Direct. Follow them on Twitter at the Soccer Shop D. I'll check their website www.thesoccershopdirect.com for all your teamwear and football equipment needs. We'll just round it up. If anybody wants to follow the guys on social media, you can check out Mozza at
Mozza Plays on Twitter or Mozza on Twitch.
Thin brag with the Mozza on Twitch as he puts his cushion in his little Mozza tip on his right shoulder. That was pre-placed, wasn't it? Let's be honest. That was a
it's been there ever since it happened.
But congratulations, Mozza. It's like a good team. Fair play. Must admit. Chris, where can we find you?
At Rampant FM on Twitter. I'm also on YouTube, but I don't know if anyone would be interested in that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm glad to be wrapping up. Time to get tense for the North London derby.
So,
indeed.
Get excited about that. Check me out on Twitter. It's at Mr. Ben Grant, and I'll be there for all your abuse as always. But it's been quite thin around recently, so it's been quite nice, I must admit. But thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you all perhaps another time. Cheers.
See you next time.
See you again.